So the first thing says, reminder of established norms that worked in the last meeting. Anything needs to be adjusted, and if we want to add anything new. Personally, feeling good, feeling great. I think one of the comments recently that the professor put on our team meetings is that she really likes the flow of our group, and I would agree with that. I feel like we're a really cohesive group, and I think we're all so far like best group 418 project I have ever had. So I think everything so far is really good.
Yeah, I think everything works good and it flows well. I think we all let each other have our own time to talk. Nobody like interrupts each other or whatever. So I think everything's good too. I think we work well together.
Were you bringing the icebreaker, or was Jamie going to bring it?
I was going to.
Okay.
It was just um what day in your life would you want to relive? Like what was one of
Oh,
your most like favorite days? I thought that one was kind of fun.
that's a good question. Hmm. Do you have one?
Yeah, mine's not like super exciting, but like it's
I mean,
definitely a day I wouldn't mind reliving.
hmm
Was the day that my brother got married,
mm.
just because the wedding was like one of the funnest weddings I've ever been to. Our whole family was there. Um, his now wife is like my best friend, so that's cool that she's now my sister. So I just enjoyed that day and would definitely relive it if I could.
Wait, that is a okay answer. I'm trying to think. I have like a really bad habit of like not like remembering stuff. So like yesterday, like if you ask me like what I did yesterday, I have to sit here for a couple minutes and like think about it. So I'm like, what have I done in my whole life?
Like,
I'm trying to
what
like
was something
recall.
fun?
Yeah. um.
Or like, okay, here's another question. Do you have like a bucket list, like of things that you've always wanted to do?
Ooh. I don't really think I have a bucket list. I feel like I'm like a very much so in like the now kind of person. Like I don't really think too much about the future. It stresses me out.
Fair
And
enough.
I am very much so like I like to think I'm like a really like laid back chill person. So I'm just kind of like whatever happens happens. Like when I like opportunities will arise whenever they arise, and like I'm not really the kind of person to like go out of my way to make things happen. I'm like really spiritual, so I'm like if something's going to happen, it's gonna happen. I don't have to go out of my way. I'm trying to think of something I would like to do though.
Yeah, like,
Mm.
would you like to go visit another country, or would you like to go, I don't know, on some big like excursion, like drive across the U.S. or
Mm.
I
I
don't
think a country I really want to visit is Singapore.
know.
Um, uh, I'm really into like specifically like travel like food like videos. There's like this one person I watch. And she works for a cruise ship, so she's in a lot of different countries. So she gets to like try all of these like different kinds of food. And that seems like just so much fun to me. I'm like really really into culinary. I wanted to go to culinary school. And I just like I love food, I love cooking, I love those things. And so like Singapore is like the one that always like stands out to me because they have like food markets, like food night markets.
Oh,
And they look like so much fun, and there's like so many different kinds of food to try. And this like specific like creator that I watch, like she's like willing to try like anything and everything. Like I think I'm personally not that kind of person. Like I have like some food aversion, so like totally respect it. I think it's super cool. That's not me, but I think it would be super cool to like, have the opportunity to try new foods and stuff like that. So that would be that would be really cool to get the opportunity to do.
nice. I like that one. My brother was in the military and he went to Singapore, so I have like this little dragon from Singapore that he
Oh,
got
that's
me.
so cool.
Um, but it sounds like he had a good time there. It sounds like a good visit.
It's also like really, really small, and I just like feel like visiting a country that is like that small would be like really cool because I feel like you would be able to do a lot and be able to like say like I went like I saw all of Singapore in like a matter of like days.
Right, yeah, you could travel around the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that'd be cool. For sure.
um, so the Stump the Professor video is first. Respond to the answers given to your questions and mention other team's question slash response.
Okay, let me pull it up. Um, I like that video. That video was fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, this is the.
Oh, shoot. Oh gosh, it's been so long. I should have came more prepared. Here we go. I was like working right until our meeting today. I was like trying to run out of there. I was like, guys, I gotta go.
Yeah, same. I've been like, I feel like it's also like finals week, so I feel like everything just feels like a lot more like extra stressful just because it's like on top of like your everyday things, you also have like exams and papers and all these things. So you're just kind of everything's just really frantic all the time.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, it's been crazy. Okay. Let's see. So our first question was, how do you feel, how do you deal? Oh my gosh, I cannot read for the life of me. How do you deal with bad feedback about the way you went about a situation that took place? Um,
Was that your question?
yeah. And I think she just kind of said to like step back and like see like why that person gave you bad feedback and why the situation happened that way and see maybe what that person's going through.
Mm.
Um, to just understand everything that took place in the conflict. And then maybe you could talk to them about the bad feedback that you got to then resolve it and maybe learn from it.
hmm for Jamie's question, what measures do you take to prevent personal biases from influencing conflict resolution? She talked about like asking people like what your biases are. I thought that was really interesting because I feel like a lot of the stuff that we talk about in like the conflict management classes, like what like when I think about this stuff, I'm like in the most ideal world, like we this is how we would deal with conflict, but I feel like managing conflict is a lot harder when you put it into practice, and so like I just thought that, and so it was like really interesting because it's like yeah, like if you want to prevent bias from influencing conflict like resolution, like just ask people what your biases are, but I feel like asking someone is like it like feels awkward and is like a harder thing said than done. Where like I feel as though like I have the friends where like I would be able to just be like, hey, like what have you? I actually have had friends who have told me like you kind of like have opinions about this, and I'm like, oh, I have never had anyone say that to me. But I feel like it's very much so like you have to have like the right people. Because I feel like what's also important is like what their biases are because like they might have a bias about one of your biases and that like like that affects like the perception of like how they feel about your biases. But I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I also think it depends on like the relationship you have with the person because
Mhm.
like when I worked at the pizza shop, I worked with a lot of different people, like from younger to older to the same age, like
Mhm.
old guys, everything. And so I think like maybe if I was talking to them outside of work, some of them I could ask them that question, but others I don't think I would feel as comfortable talking about that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
even though they bring it up to me like at work and in work situations. But then at that point, I feel like I just avoid it because you're at work and it's not really thing
Mhm.
to be talked about. But like
Yeah.
with my best friend, I could be like, oh, hey, what the heck? Why do you feel this way? And she would be like, oh, and like anybody in my family or part of my boyfriend's family, I feel like I could say that stuff too, but not not friends that I keep at a distance for sure.
Yeah. Definitely time, place, person. There's lots
Yeah,
of
yeah.
factors go
So
into it.
that answer can be hard to do at times for sure.
Hmm. And my question, what was the situation you were involved in that you could have handled differently and perhaps even better? Um, Honestly, I feel like her answer didn't directly answer my question. She gave an example of like a situation, that she is like proud of how she handled it, which is like super great. Props to her. It was like she like the conflict that she described. Um, she handled well, but I feel like, and maybe I could have been a bit more specific. But like I think I was like looking for more of like, I think she kind of gave like a broad, like, I'm like a runner. I tend to like exit conflict and stuff like that. But there wasn't really like a direct example of a situation that maybe wasn't handled like, the greatest it could have been, like how like that could be like reflected on to like how it could have been handled differently and like also like maybe better. I feel like for me, like reflection of like how you have handled past conflict and being able to recognize when you could have handled something better, I think that's really important for me because I think that contributes a lot to like our personal growth and development. And I think being able to recognize like a situation and being like, I could have handled that better and thinking about like how you could have, I think that's really important. So I think maybe I just kind of wanted to hear more of like, this is something that I could have handled, um, like this way instead of doing this. But her example of how she did handle, conflict, especially in the classroom setting, that was really good. Um, answer. I think, being in a classroom setting, I don't know how like I would handle something like that if I was a professor. But I think she handled it really well.
Yeah, I think to be able to handle like to reflect on a situation that you think you didn't handle correctly is good, but I also think like if it still bugs you and it still irritates you to then always go back to it. Like
Mhm.
to go back to the person and be like, "Hey, I don't really feel like we handled this right. Maybe we should talk about this more." And like I do realize I got angry and I shouldn't have got angry and I see why I got angry now and maybe we can talk about what made me angry kind of thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
I agree.
but I don't know. I like that's a lot easier being said than done as well too.
Yeah. I look at
Situation
so many
like
things
that.
are so
Yeah.
many like.
So
um, and
yeah, I
then
don't know. I felt like
another.
that wasn't
Sorry, go on.
answered. No, you're okay. I felt like that wasn't really answered specifically.
Mhm.
Um, like you said, she just did an example, and it's kind of hard to
Mhm.
get an answer out of an example.
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I feel like it was just like I was like okay. I was like I think I would have liked hearing a little bit more, but like she had so many questions too, so she
Right.
had a
Yeah.
lot. She had a lot going on.
For sure. Yeah. I think the example still helped. It definitely still
Mhm.
explained some of it and explained like how she deals with it and what to do. But I don't feel like
Yeah.
she like took the question and broke it down like she did the other ones.
Mhm. She also did mention that it was like personal, so like I
Right.
respect if like maybe talking about like something that was like more personal. She didn't feel like sharing because it was like a video for the whole class. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think maybe if you like emailed her about it or something, she would probably talk to you more about it.
mhm.
But
And
okay.
then another team's question slash response.
Uh, let's see.
The one that I got was from Team Bubbles. The question is, ever okay to be aggressive during conflict? Um, and her response, she kind of focused like a little bit on like violence, which like she said very directly like she doesn't think violence is ever okay, which I agree with. But then there's also like other types of like aggression. She also recognized that like the word aggressive is like a very broad term and it can encapsulate like a lot of different things. And she was talking about um how about like threats and stuff, and like how like you can like threaten people like to like stay, but then like and then feel like you won, but like did you really win? Like because maybe like the person told you that like they were and like things are okay now, but like are they really okay and stuff like that. And so I really liked her response to that. Because I think especially what stood out to me was like the did you really win part? Because I feel like I don't really feel like like when you deal with when you manage conflict in that way, like it's easy to feel like you won, but like is conflict management really about winning? Like does anybody ever really win? So that's one that I was looking at.
Okay. I actually really liked the first question, um, of when it says, at what point, if any, is a conflict unsolvable? And I think she said that like it's never technically unsolvable. It's something that can always be like you can always go back to. So even though it might not be solved like right now, um, I don't think it's anything that couldn't eventually be solved. Like
Hmm.
maybe, you guys got into it and things weren't going good and then like nothing ever came out of it and you both just walked away. I think it's something that you could both talk about maybe in a week and be like, hey, this is still in my mind. We never came to a conclusion. We never resolved this. Like things got pretty heated. Things didn't turn out. Can we maybe just talk about this and talk about why we were angry or why this happened?
Hmm.
And then I think from there it can be solved. But yeah, I think.
And the
Okay.
Godfather scene.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I did not rewatch that. I didn't realize. Ugh.
That's okay.
So,
Um, it's not that long of a clip, so.
yeah,
Um,
let's
it
see.
says, what new thing stands out to you this time around? Remembering that they
When
are
we
of the
first
same age.
arrived at St. Jude,
Sorry, could you hear that?
It's okay.
Did not mean to do that.
um,
I like, clicked on the video and it started playing. Okay. Um,
I think something for me that came to mind, was the knowing that in the room are also the Godfather's older son and his adopted son, the family lawyer. I think that having like that background really enhanced the scene a lot more in terms of like communication and just like how like the different aspects of what was contributing to the way that this conflict was being managed because I think especially it being like the oldest son and I think like the seemingly like he's kind of like I haven't seen The Godfather, but he's kind of like giving like he is like the head of the family, like he handles business, he handles like this and that. And I think the oldest son, usually oldest sons are like the um people in the family to like inherit like something like that. Like eventually, like when the Godfather like passes away, like it will like this like business of whatever it is that he does will be passed on to the oldest son. So like not only is he trying to manage and resolve this conflict, he's also trying to set an example for his son of like how things are done in the family and how and like very much like living by example. So like because what he chooses to do in that conflict not only will determine how Bonacera is like if his daughter like if he gets what he wants for his daughter, but it also affects um like how the son will then go on to manage further conflict in the future, maybe one day when the business is his. And then the family lawyer also being there, I think is kind of like a similar thing. I think him being a lawyer makes it a little bit different though, and him being like the adopted son. But I feel like the Godfather also in this conversation is attempting to show that he has like the upper hand, and doesn't want to be undermined by Bonacera in front of his oldest son and in front of his adopted son, because if he's undermining them Bonacera, then what keeps the sons from undermining him as well? And so I think he's trying to at the same time like protect his identities and who he is at face to his sons.
Yeah, I like that perspective. I think that's fair. I think that is a valid point in all of it. I also think that having his sons in there makes him feel like he has more power because he has more people on his side. He
Mm-hmm.
feels like he can kind of dominate the whole conflict and everything that's going on, because he has people to back him up, and his son-in-law, being a lawyer, I think also helps because he's like, oh, well, there's a lawyer in the room, so you have to watch what you have to say,
Mm-hmm.
because anything that he says can then be used further in the conflict or in whatever happens. I've never seen the movie either, but I think uh, I think all of that is working in his advantage in the conflict and makes him have the higher power in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think the way that like I think the face that he is showing to his sons and the face that he shows to Bonacera like are different, but like are very cohesive.
Yeah.
Um, and then with like the question of like does um, Bonacera and the Godfather need a third party mediator? I would say no, honestly, just because I feel like this is that kind of situation again where it's like better said than done. Like I just can't realistically there like and like in an ideal world, like sure, maybe, but like again, like I just can't imagine there being a third party mediator in practice in this situation, especially with like the topic at hand of like murder. Um it just feels like I don't know, kind of silly, I guess. I think with when it comes to like conflict that's like doesn't involve murder, like I think third party mediators like are a good idea. But in this conflict, it's from a movie, so it's not like real or anything. But I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I think it would be a weird situation to have a mediator in it because it's like, it's kind of something that needs to be talked about right then and there. And if you
Mhm.
go through a mediator, it's kind of like this whole back and forth thing, like, oh,
Mhm.
tell them I said this. And then they're like, oh, well, I say this. And then it could like just drag it on. Whereas this could
Mhm.
get resolved like now. And,
Yeah.
um, I also think it depends on the situations when you should have a mediator. Like if things get really bad and like you almost die, okay, yeah. Like,
Mhm.
in the movie scene, like if one of them were to almost be killed, okay, maybe you
Yeah.
should have a mediator come in to help
Uh-huh.
conflict a little bit. But at this point, I don't think that they would need it. I think that things are getting worked out fine, even though they're a little heated. But
Uh-huh.
I would agree with you with not needing one.
And then the next question is, how would you advise either Godfather or Bonacera to navigate the conflict? Um, I think I would honest like if given the opportunity, I would say to Bonacera like maybe don't bother the man on the day that his daughter's getting married. I think you should try to your best ability to have conversations that are like that intense. Maybe when someone isn't like having like an important day. Like I feel like everyone especially like at our age, has had like a time when they've had like an issue with someone, but have had to like keep it to themselves for like a little while, just because like of things that are upcoming, either personally, like or like with the other person. And I feel like I understand like his his like spectrum of emotions. Obviously, like a very unfortunate thing happened to his daughter. But again, I think I mentioned this last time we talked about the scene, but like an emergency on his end does not constitute an emergency on the Godfather's end, and I think it's again very unfortunate thing happened to his daughter, but I think it's inconsiderate to go to the Godfather and to expect him to do him this favor on the day that his daughter is getting married, because now he just seems like inconsiderate and almost what's the word um like the word for like when someone thinks that like they deserve something, like very self-righteous, um, just like time and place, I think, kind of thing. And for The Godfather, I think, if I could advise him, I would say like, because he obviously seems like not happy, because he says like, you come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding. He's obviously not happy about it. And I think being like, I think having like being like a very unfortunate thing happened to his daughter, like he's not thinking right. Like we gotta understand like where he's coming from, and that like he's like in a very hard place right now because like I'm not a father, I don't have a daughter, but I can imagine, at least to a very small extent, like how much like feelings that would arise knowing that something unfortunate happened, and like it being out of your hands and it going to like the police and then going to court and nothing coming of it. I imagine it is very, very incredibly frustrating and very saddening. But I think there was a bit of like non-understanding from both parties.
Yeah, I agree. I think Juan Sarah should have, like, I don't know, said to the Godfather, hey, I have an emergency. Can I talk to you when I have time? Versus
Mhm.
coming in and being like, hey, I need you to do this stuff. I need it now. And the
Mhm.
Godfather's like, well, what the hell? No way. You can't just come
Mhm.
in demanding things, especially on the day that my daughter's getting married. Like, you're not of high importance to me. Like, it's not like a death in the family or something extreme to where it needs to be done right then and there for somebody
Mhm.
that is so important to him. And so I think I would say to just, um, like maybe, like you said, think about the time and place that you're doing this and think about what you're asking of somebody before you just go and do it. Because
Uh-huh.
like, if you don't know what they're going through, you should just be like, hey, I need something. Can we talk when you have time? It's urgent. So as soon as possible would be great.
Mhm.
Than demanding things. And
Yeah.
I also think the Godfather should have been like, get out of my office. We'll talk after the wedding. Or, instead of like getting into this whole conflict and all of this
Yeah. Kind of like allowing
arising.
it to happen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And like maybe he did want to do it for his sons that were in the room and show them, how to deal with
Mhm.
things. But also it's like, well, you can't just allow people to walk all over you like that either
Mhm.
when you want to be in power and when you want to show that you have power over people. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
There could have been some boundary setting from The Godfather.
Right. Yeah. Something. But yeah.
No,
Okay.
nice
We
to
have
see
a
as far as
minute 30
Godfather.
left.
Okay.
Do we want to end it and then start again?
Yes.
Okay.